Oh, that's recording. Yada, yada, yada. Up in 10 seconds. Cool. So, Mark, thanks for being here, man. Or thanks for sitting down with me.
My pleasure.
Hell yeah, man. So Truth, Love, and Peace, that's the name of the show. It's just a really good excuse to have conversations like this, just to catch people up. We were talking about your career as an air traffic controller.
Yes.
So that's a good place for us to backtrack to for a minute. So how long have you been helping pilots not die?
Oh, let's see. About 18 years now.
Goodness, 18 years.
Yep.
And when and where did you start doing that? I mean,
I started doing it
Go ahead.
with the Air Force. And
That's what I was getting at.
first base, actually really doing it outside of training was Egg One Air Force Base over in Florida, right there in Fort Walton Beach. 19 years old, showing up to the beach. Not a bad gig.
No, not at all. Not at all. 19, at the beach, and yeah, that's definitely a good gig. 19, and what's it like being an air traffic controller at 19? I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the movie or not, but I'll make stupid movie references all day long because Pushing 10 and Billy Bob Thornton is one of my favorites. So that's what I know about air traffic controlling. That's it. That's the extent of it.
Yeah, it's a bit hyperbolic,
Yeah.
It's kind of like someone's personality on stage. You take your personality and you make it work. That's kind of what that movie was. They hit home on a few aspects, but
What'd they get right?
like the personality type, like most of us are type A personality. Men, women, doesn't matter. All of it, just balls to the wall personality. And him getting in the wake turbulence and getting thrown around, that's stupid. No one would do it, but if anyone would do it, it'd probably be a controller.
I kind of was curious. So I'd be the kind
I've almost seen some controllers go toe to toe right there in the room where they're working. We call it the IFR room, where they're working traffic, with the screens and everything. And it can get heated sometimes. You see some people throughout 18 years, a couple times, never went toe to toe, but you see it developing.
Now, how does that come about? Because obviously there's a lot at risk when you're dealing with other people's lives. So
it's like fight or flight at 10. Like when it's in there,
but how does it come to heads in the radar room? That's what I'm curious about. Like, why would you get mad at the guy next to you? That's what
you can really, from almost any position in the place, mess up someone else from that position by doing the wrong thing or putting a plane. Because the planes don't just fly themselves where they want.
Right.
When they come through, we give them vectors and altitudes to keep them separated and bring them in to where they need to go. And you can set people up what we call a deal. Next thing you know, they got planes coming right at some planes they have already, or two of their planes are coming at you, and they hand them off. You're the next person to work them. But by the time they get into your airspace, now you have an issue of these two planes colliding, so you got to fix it.
Okay, so
it's an issue of we don't have time to work this out. Everything boom, 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 boom. So when the brain is cranked up that high, and you just did something that's going to mess up that, which your mind automatically goes into, well, if this messes up bad, I can get in trouble. People can die. This whole thing. So your, instinct, your first response is backlash.
I
can get mad really, really easy, really fast.
Yeah, if you have to, the visual that I have in my head is like a game of chess. A team playing a game of chess, and if you have to follow somebody else's move,
and it was a dumb move,
why in the world?
Yeah, pretty much like that.
Yeah, so everybody's on the same team, but if somebody's not hitting on all cylinders, you're fucked. Yeah, that makes
most
sense.
of the time, it's fine. You can work that out. But there's times where it just gets really, really busy, where you don't have time to think. It's just move out the way. Let me do what I gotta do.
Go.
Yeah, it's fun.
Stressful is what it sounds like to me, man. Better you than me. I couldn't do it. I'd be over it. Like, why haven't we figured out a way to automate this? We're out.
Yeah, they have, and they're working on it.
What does that look like? That's artificial intelligence. That's up my alley. Algorithms and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know how close to AI it is, But they do have it's called first gen,
What's this?
and it's got to be in the higher flight levels.
Like altitudes, or
Yeah. When you get up to 18,000 feet, that's where flight levels start.
Okay.
So when you get up high, 300, say 30,000 feet, that's where all the big planes are doing, just going across and hitting these points. Then you drop below to like what we work, then we take those planes, and then we're like constantly turn here, descend, climb this and that. Where when they're up high, it's if there's an issue out here, it's hundreds of miles away. You can turn this dude 2 degrees, and by the time they come across, they'll be separated. So up in the high altitudes, that's where it's going to work.
I see.
Because they can control that easier. But when you get down low, I don't know if it come to a point where you can make that work, because that human just knowing like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, and
That will take a true artificial intelligence to be able to master that part of it.
yeah, I remember seeing something about on an aircraft they've tried to digitize them and make it this digital board that is the deck and all the planes on board, but they still use nuts and bolts, literally washers and shit on a table, because that's the best way to keep track of all of it. It's that crazy. And those are just the planes on the deck, not even the ones in the air. So
it's usually a mix between that and then the older guys, which are the ones still in charge, that can't quite wrap their head around the newer tech. So they try and impose their older ways for as long as they can until the newer guard outweighs them.
we just haven't found a good enough dog treat yet to catch everybody up to the digital revolution.
It's like they have new equipment that we use that started getting implemented right around the time I joined the Air Force.
Yeah.
And like our keyboards are QWERTY keyboards. Old FA and DoD keyboards are ABC keyboards. It's like 4 lines of alphabet, just A, B, C, D. And
you'd have to
be
relearn
amazing
that.
how hard it is to find a letter when it's in sequence of the alphabet that you know.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm so used to doing this.
Yeah. So when they brought in this new equipment with QWERTY keyboards, fast, everything,
Yeah.
they had to make 2 versions of it. That one, and then one that's got the ABC keyboard, and it looks all clunky like a toy, and knobs on the scope, where like the ones we have is clean, everything's on the keyboard. Because the old guys, the old guard that still ran everything was like, we like our knobs. We like the ABC keyboard, that's what we're used to. We don't want to change.
Crazy.
So that's what any technology, unless it's something so overpowering, like when internet and computers came about.
Yeah, old habits die hard, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess there's something to be said for once you've learned a system that well, it's really difficult to change systems. But I don't know. I mean,
Well, something that large too, like when you're talking on a government scale, you're trying to
does that make it complicated?
change the course of a ship.
Yeah.
When it's on a smaller scale, it's like turning the car. When it's something that big, it's like turning a battleship. It's going to take a lot of pieces to move it, and when most of those pieces belong to the older guard, it's a slow turn.
Yeah, and that's something I find problematic about our culture right now, is that we are playing at an archaic speed compared to where our technology is wanting to be.
Definitely.
And it really, I won't say it frustrates me, but it's laughable that so many of the things that if we plugged the right pieces of technology into could be so much smoother. It's just so much smoother.
Plug the right people into it. Because, we got to build this technological world that we're in. We have to build it with the government.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have a system like, I've worked for the government 18 years. I've seen, our like 1999 technology computers all the way to now. And I've seen how they've been implemented through the government versus an outside, and how their websites are versus ours. Government websites go down left and right.
Yeah.
You know what websites don't go down? Porn websites don't go down.
Ever.
They don't hire those people, because one thing about people that are, good programmers and ones that can truly keep your information safe, they don't like to play by the same rules as the government, you know? Like,
Yeah.
if you can hire these people and be like, you can be your normal self, as long as you don't do any real deviant type stuff, just be your normal self like a normal employee, we'll hire you. Like, the FBI thought about suspending the drug testing so that they can catch up with the tech-savvy people, because they know that a lot of the tech-savvy people like their weed.
Yeah.
So they thought about suspending it, and after some time, they came to the conclusion, like, no, with the FBI, we can't do it. Well, you're going to continue to fall behind.
Yeah.
You think Russia puts that stipulation on their hackers?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Surely not. Well, and now I've heard somewhere that Google employees and programmers are microdosing LSD and different.
LSD, psilocybin, modafinil.
What's that? I'm not familiar with that one.
You're not. It's because a drug, if it's in this country and it's a drug, it has to have a purpose. So modafinil's purpose is for narcolepsy.
Okay.
To keep you awake. And basically, they say it's almost like Adderall, but it's not a speed. They don't know how it works on the mind, but it wakes you up. And apparently, programmers in Silicon Valley pop them like M&Ms, and it keeps their mind sharp and running like they've been awake. Like,
I'm just running through the list of possibilities. I can think of a few things that could get that done. There's certain mushrooms that could have effects like that. You know, there's a lot of mushrooms. Psilocybin is sharpens your visual acuity, so there's a little bit of that in there.
it also
It doesn't surprise me that there's one of those out there. I don't know.
it also enhances, things like your creativity. It speeds up your neurons. Like your neural network fires faster.
Yeah.
Like I got pretty big in studying. I got my bachelor's degrees in psychology.
Cool.
So within that, I kind of went on that little trip on, because now they're using it for PTSD.
Oh yeah.
They're using
the MAPS
They're
program.
even using stuff like ketamine.
Excuse me.
And
Yeah, I was
it's
listening.
very interesting.
I was listening to a guy today. I can't remember his name. I've only heard him speak a couple of times, but he's taken psilocybin in the range of 30 grams at a time, right? 30 grams, which is amazing. But when you talk
That's
about
well over Terrence McKenna's fucking heroic dose.
Yeah, that puts that stuff to shame. But it brings credence to a guy like Paul Stamets' story, where he ended up doing like 20 grams up a tree one time, the first time he did psilocybin, not knowing. One of the things that he said was that psilocybin is like the Coca-Cola of mushrooms and psychedelics, because it's so easy to get, and it's so kid level, and that you can't OD on it. Like, the likelihood that you're going to eat enough to hurt yourself physically is pretty small. But how that ties into what's going on with these programmers and these people being able to think on levels and pull things off from a programming standpoint that we just haven't seen before.
And what's crazy is, without any intervention, they're already performing at levels we've never seen. Like the Isaac Newtons and stuff, and Einsteins were a small group, and now because of computers, the ones that never got noticed before are now getting noticed. They find it in a place.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than a genius that's left out to the woods.
Yeah, it doesn't do
Never
any good.
discovers that they are a genius. You know what I'm saying? Now with the computers and the tech world, like, you're seeing that change. Like Elon Musk, we know about him because of the tech world.
Love that guy.
Yeah, like he is changing the game. You read his book, it's amazing.
I've skimmed through it. I don't ever actually read anything. My attention span doesn't last that long.
It's amazing. Like the things he's done.
Oh yeah, man. I keep up with a lot of his work, and I call him Elon Stark. The only thing he's missing is the Iron Man suit.
Apparently, he has an eidetic memory
Yeah,
to the point that he remembers everything he's ever written. Like when he designs the rockets and they got to do some math, he doesn't. It's all they say. He does it all in his head and just spits it out.
Yeah, I believe that.
That's ridiculous. The dude said, "I want to go to space. Russia's being a pain in the ass. Me getting these rockets. Let me read some books and make one." And he made one and went to space for a tenth of any country.
Yeah. And now he's digging tunnels. Word. I know. Just because.
And he's like, My idea. Here you go. You can have it.
Well, and there are people that say that, and this gets back to the programming, like we were talking about, that he may be responsible for Bitcoin, and if not solely, part of this group of people that is looking to change the face of what the internet is through this blockchain technology, which gets back to the problem that governments are having with not being able to keep up with the hackers, is because the hackers operate in the world that the internet was always meant to be, which was anonymous. It never had identity. And so that's what the government wants now, is to be able to trace all these people and keep tabs on them so they can keep their leverage on them.
Yeah.
But it's one of the reasons that they'll always be so far behind, is because they can't keep up with the things like Bitcoin and blockchain, which, I mean, the hackers in the upper echelons right now have to be looking at Bitcoin going, this is what I think it is. I think Bitcoin is, and blockchain tech security is, cryptocurrency is basically artificial intelligence developing its own immune system and figuring out a way to protect itself from the inside out. Which, if you're gonna have to defend yourself against every possible virus out there, then you're gonna mine every possible solution to resolve that. That's exactly what an immune system is. So it's possible that what high-level hackers are doing right now is so far beyond what Google is working on with its AI bots. It blows my mind, and I'm not even a computer guy.
The problem when you get systems built that are so big like Google is, for a certain amount of time you're going to pull the biggest and brightest. You're going to get those. But when you get so big where you stop innovating and you start buying, you've seen the first blunder at Google when they bought it. You remember that camera that you could flip the little lens and shit? There's a little flip.
I don't remember that one.
Little small camcorder flip thing. Yeah, this is like, I don't know, a little over 10 years ago.
Okay,
I forget the exact. But they bought it for like $100 million, billion, whatever, some ridiculous number.
Ugh.
One of those when they started, companies start buying shit for big numbers, and they bought this, and then it flopped.
Oops.
When you go from innovation to just buying other people's innovation, you start failing.
Yeah.
That's why, like right now, Elon Musk, he pulls the biggest and brightest. He goes to these schools and he's like, hey, come work for me. You're not going to make a shit ton of money. You're not going to get much gratitude, and you're going to work your ass off, but we're going to change the world.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. I want to make
that's appealing to someone,
Yeah.
There's a lot of scientists, they're not in it for the money. They want to change the world. Sometimes, like Elon Musk, money is a side effect.
Yeah.
It comes because he wants to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla and SpaceX have been on the verge of bankruptcy almost since they started.
Mm-hmm.
Because he puts everything back in it. He pushes it to the fucking envelope every time. He's not worried about the next quarter and the next quarter. Like, there's a point of fucking diminishing returns for everything.
Yeah, and those guys are crushing it too, man. Like, if you look at, I don't know how into Tesla's self-driving capabilities, the autopilot functions that they have. Musk is trying to transition to an all-video system. He says
and then bring up a video of like your surroundings.
So the autopilot will work instead of on radar and sonar and all those other
cameras.
things, purely on visual, purely on cameras. He said because that's the last great hurdle in solving autopilot is in incorporating optics, and if you can't incorporate optics, then you haven't solved the problem, and if you've solved the problem, then it takes care of the whole problem. So like squares a rhombus thing. But he was saying that they'd be able to go unassisted on optics alone from coast to coast, which is like, do you know how many people kill other people in cars every year? Like, this is going to be huge.
I can't wait.
But that's the kind of thing that they throw out standards like that, and that because they push so hard. I think that's how they get there, is by pushing hard.
People,
but I love that dude,
worried
man.
about, like,
he's awesome.
Like the Google car. It may have, I remember reading, it was probably like 2 years ago or something, but it had made like so many 100,000 miles.
Uh-huh.
And it had 2 or 3 wrecks, but all of them are caused by human.
Yeah. Because humans suck. The statistics bear out that the autopilots so far are crushing safety numbers from people. Yeah.
They can't be distracted.
No, they're so much better than us. Like to the tune of 98%, I think.
Go down your stand and go Highway 98, 55 miles an hour. You know what separates you from death? About 4 feet.
A sneeze. Not even 4 feet.
Someone sneezes, someone picks up their phone. And most of the people driving, I wouldn't trust to hold my dog so I can run to the convenience store for 2 minutes.
Yeah, no.
And we trust putting our loved ones in these steel cages and going out and doing breakneck speeds.
It's unbelievable how comfortable some people are with other people's craziness. Because I think that all the time.
Or you'll go crazy.
Yeah. Oh man.
Everything, all of it's crazy. But if you always, we get deep into stuff. But if you always walk around with it right there on the forefront of your mind, you go crazy.
Yeah, I do that.
Or you just got to accept that you're part of this craziness. That person when you're in traffic, you're like, God damn traffic! Why am I stuck in traffic? You're traffic too.
Yeah.
You're part of the problem too. But when you're in that situation, everyone else is, and that's how you protect yourself from the crazy is by being like, they're all crazy, not me.
Right? We go with the flow.
But we're all fucking crazy.
Yeah. We are, and it's terrifying. Some people are crazier than others, though.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying. It's just absolutely terrifying that cars are a thing, man. That's the death machines, and we're cruising down the road like 70 miles an hour. And I lived in Ohio for a while. I don't know if you've ever lived somewhere where it snows a lot.
Mm-hmm. Colorado, Germany.
There you go. Yeah. So
when it's 75 up there.
Yeah, when things go wrong at 75 miles an hour and there is no traction. What are you winging a prayer, man? Thoughts and prayers. Good luck.
Yeah, it's like Germany, the Autobahn and stuff.
Yeah, but here's the difference.
We innovated driving, and then we fell behind on being good drivers.
There you go. The good driver part, man. Their credentials to drive on the Autobahn are no joke. What do you have to do? I've never been. What's it like? Like what kind of hoops?
I was 9 and 10 when I lived there.
Oh, so
I know from seeing it, not actually driving it. You know? But I know my sister was maybe 17 when we lived there, something like that. 16, 17. Around that age, you can start taking driver's ed over there. But I don't think you can get your license until you're 18. You lose a drop of a dime. And when the light turns green, it's not one car, two cars. Everyone moves at the same time.
Oh, it's so weird.
How it should be.
Why can't we do that?
You can tell the car in front of you is moving, so you can start applying pressure on your pedal too. You're trying to turn left at that red light, and you see the first car, and then you're like, I could fit a car there. Oh, there's the second car.
Yeah, and then by the time you get that 1 or 2 car space, the sensors get all messed up, and so you ruin the whole rhythm of the light. It's a domino effect, man. Mm-hmm. Stupid people, or distracted people, however you want to look at it.
Well, stupid is subjective.
Yeah.
Distracted is more apt with the world we live in. Back in the day, what you had to worry about? Flipping your 8-track?
Yeah, nothing, right?
Yeah. Now it's everything. I hate texting and driving. I try not to do it, but I still do it.
Yep. Phones are getting better, though, man. That's one of the good things about the technology is they're getting safer. I think we're real close to just starting to put shit in us. I think it's coming. I can't wait to get some contact lenses.
You ever read Ray Kurzweil or?
I love Kurzweil. Yeah. What'd you get hold of recently?
I hadn't watched him or anything. I started reading the Singularity a while back, but I jump with books. If it's a real thick book, I'm going to jump to other books and come back because I'm a completionist. I got to read the whole thing. I don't have to read it all today, but at some point I got to read it all.
Yeah, I got Da Vinci Syndrome, man. I'm like, okay, I get that. On to the next thing. I get that. On to the next thing.
I don't know. I like, the devil's in the details. I like all the fine points. So I don't like to miss anything.
I love Kurzweil's Singularity work, though. I was a little disappointed when I found out he pushed the time frame back to 2045. Because I think
that's not a huge. Because it was 2039 before.
No, it was 34 when it first came out. Yeah, it was we pushed it back about 10 years.
He's not a psychic. He's a futurist based off of text. So you got to give him a little
Well, I just disagree. That I think we're going to get there faster, and I think that one of the things Kurzweil didn't take into consideration is how fast AI is going to be able to program itself.
I don't think he took into consideration biological computing.
That's a possibility.
They've already learned how to store basic information in a strand of DNA.
Yeah, and
like,
use
like
nervous
terabytes
tissue
or something, and you know,
and
like,
use neurons for networking.
Yeah, powering an LED using cells, using life as a battery. Like that's the paradigm shift. Where tubes went to transistors. Like this is the next paradigm shift is using biology. And once they learn how to make and use different biologies to run this system or power this, it's only a matter of time before they're like, hey, the way we're powering this light, we have all that in us. The way we're storing this information, we have that. How do we translate it? How do we pull it out and put it up here? You know?
Yeah.
What's our USB connector for us gonna look like for that's
there was a book written by the same guy who did Fight Club called Rant, the oral biography of Buster Casey. What's the guy's name? I can't think of it. He wrote Fight Club. His name is, people are going to be so mad at me, Chuck Palahniuk. And he said that it's kind of like a Matrix. Just right into the base of your skull. Plug that shit straight in. Except instead of being in a chair and the whole 9 yards, it'd just be like an 1/8 inch, one of these. Just plug that right in.
I think it's going to be not noticeable. I think it's going to be an ejection. Some type of nanites.
Wi-Fi.
And the cloud, like right now, our phones, people don't think of it like that.
It's true, they don't.
We're cyborgs. The first time someone put reading glasses on, you now are using something other than you.
Augmented reality.
So our phones are an extension of our memory, an extension of our brain. Only thing is, we're at a point now with them where, and I heard it, I forget who said it, I want to say it was on Bill Maher's show, that people are just smart enough to be scary right now. Because they're just smart enough to think they know the shit they don't really know. Because we get a false sense of superiority with the tech that's in our pockets.
Yeah, because of our little security blanket.
But most people, if you didn't go to school, and not just didn't go to school but didn't learn well, you don't know how to properly vet a study. You spat all these studies, you don't know what the P factor was in that study, you don't know all the ins and outs of it. You can take two people that are amazing at what they do and do the same study, and the results are vastly different because they changed up one little thing. And if you don't know how to vet through all that, all you're doing is regurgitating. And regurgitating doesn't make you smart.
Right. Well,
you need to
for some reason, the camera enjoys it when, or for purposes of the fan and the heat sensors and everything, it automatically shuts off the recording at 30 minutes for some weird reason. So I reset it just to do that. It doesn't affect the live stream or anything, and it doesn't affect the MP3, which that's one of the. In case anybody's wondering, one of the mysteries, break down the fourth wall. If there's ever something missing in one of the videos, it's always going to be on the podcast, the downloadable version, because this is the root of everything. So it's always there. But you were talking about education and how interpreting information, because I think we evolved to learn how to interpret communication from body language and paralanguage and words, which not a lot of people know the way that balances out, which is not commonsensical for a lot of people. But there are things that people come to in different times and ways, and I forget. I had an idea on how I was going to tie that back in, but how do you see people evolving to process information in the tech age versus all that time we spent learning how to interpret body language and everything?
It is going to have to go some kind of adaptation to our own bodies to work. See, everyone worries about AI.
Yeah.
About AI. I'm not smart enough to be in that realm to really have a true voice. But my own opinion is we are way too egotistical of a species to give away that much power to a non-entity. We're going to find some way to make that AI part of us.
Yeah.
Integrate it into us, who we are. Mm-hmm. Where it's not going to be some Skynet controlling everything. It's going to be us.
Yeah.
We're going to take our intelligence to the stratosphere.
Yeah.
And that's the only way it's going to work, because so many people, think of it like school. You take algebra and you pass with, let's say, an 88 B, respectable. Mm-hmm. You got 12 points of information, at least on that test, which is supposed to be like a random draw from whatever you learned at that time. You're missing that. You go into algebra 2. Now you're going to algebra 2 with a deficit. Right. Whatever that one is, that you go into the next level of math, bigger deficit. So the further up you go, you're going to drop further and further because you're missing information. That's what's going on as I see with tech. People are not, like, I expected the newer generation. I got a lot of friends that are in their mid-20s, and I expect that generation to be like on fucking point. Most of them I know more about how to get through in and out of a computer, how to get in and out of the dark web, how to navigate all kinds of stuff than they do. Because for me, it was an interest. I was 14 when we got the internet, And I'm like, learning this stuff. And for them, they're born with it. It's here. So it's just another thing. Like, we take cars for granted. They take that for granted. And it's not on them. It's just nature. It's not intriguing like it was for me growing up. So it's going to have to be some kind of adaptation, or everyone's going to end up being drones that are a slave to a small few, even worse than it already is. Because scientists are going to find a way to make this integrated. And as long as the right scientists find that way, everyone's going to get it cheap. You go to a third world country where they can barely afford food, they got a cell phone or two.
Yeah.
At one point, you had to be rich to have a phone. And the phone was free. But if you weren't rich, you didn't have one. That's what it's going to have to be, that when that shift happens, it happens for the masses and on such a cheap level that everyone can get it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to turn dystopic.
Yeah.
It's my cynical side,
No, I don't think that is cynical at all. I think that is a real concern, because when you look at inequality and problems with access to everything, not just the cloud, but the hardware to get into it. That there's still places. I agree with you. It's becoming so much easier, and there are cell phones everywhere now, where once upon a time nobody had them. But there's still places that are dark. There's still places that don't have that. And I think that we're definitely going to keep going.
Very few.
Right, and they're going to be less and less, for sure. So we're definitely headed in that direction. And
there's still tribes that haven't been touched by man.
Thank God. Thank God.
They try and shoot at helicopters with bows and arrows, but that's cute.
Yeah.
But you always have to find pockets, but...
Well, and that ties into some fun history stuff on how that may have always been the case. And this may just be, we look at the ages as the Bronze Age and the Iron Age and all that good stuff. But on a bigger scale, maybe the ages could be better categorized by the types of energy we consume. Like, this would be a fossil fuel age, or an explosion age versus an implosion age, is one way the Egyptians talked about it. But it fascinates me how we are at a point where guys like Kurzweil and Steve Jobs have laid it out there in a way that this thing that is going to become either part of us or be the stuff of nightmares is the thing that is basically the new drug. There's so much chemistry that comes out of a hunk of hardware.
Whoever would have thought looking at that would wreck your dopamine,
right?
Whoever thought that?
Yeah, like as bad as doing like a line of coke, just huge amounts of chemistry that come out of kids staring at these things.
Dude, look at, they got people post shit that you would have thought twice before you told your best friend. You damn near see suicide notes on there.
Yeah.
I'm like, when did Facebook become a licensed psychologist?
Yeah.
Like, their shit is like, man, you gonna tell your family about that? I don't know if they're ready for it. Nowadays, it's just because they want it. It's like Munchausen syndrome. You know, they want that
Munchausen syndrome.
They want that feeling of like any attention.
Yeah.
Reacts that way. Good attention, bad attention. Attention's attention to your brain.
Just some kind of interaction.
It's, oh yeah, it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why you got so many people that get offended at stupid shit. Like, oh, you said a curse word, I'm offended. I don't give a shit. Because they get that little dopamine drip of other people going, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, start on my side. Like, no critical thinking is brought in. Nothing. Just all it is about that little drip.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
it comes for so many things.
Yeah, it does. It does. And going back to history, like people forget that you find what you go looking for. And so when you walk into Facebook, you know, when you open up Facebook and you're like, who can I argue with today? Everything you read is going to be, how can I argue with that? So, yeah, and when this becomes, in a way, there's one of my favorite sayings in Vino Veritas, I'm sure you're familiar, in wine truth. It's old ancient Latin.
I've probably heard it in one of the TV shows.
Yeah, I got it from Val Kilmer in when he was Doc Holliday in Wyatt Earp, Tombstone. The fucking best role of Val Kilmer's life. Sorry, I can quote that movie forward, backwards.
But I like The Saint myself, but
The Saint, yeah. Just because of the knife, just because of the little knife with the blowtorch in it.
No, just like young like that, man. I grew up watching ninja movies and shit. Like,
hell yeah,
being
me too.
That level of a thief. That's what I liked. I was like, I would love to be a cat burglar like that, just on point, have all the techie. Yeah.
So there was what was the I can't think of the name of it. What were some of the other movies that you liked? Like that was the same that drove me to study martial arts, eventually get into ninjutsu, and became a huge part of who I am, like Eastern philosophy and the whole 9 yards. So just to hear you say it like makes me want to get up and sing the Ninja Turtles theme song or some shit. But what
I grew up in 80s.
What were some of the other ones that you liked?
That was ninja.
Oh yeah,
movies was 80s.
What
Enter
was the
Ninja,
Shadow
Revenge
one?
of the Ninja, American Ninja.
That was it, American Ninja. When they go into the Lion Island and
recently
shit.
And watched them, they're horrible.
Oh, horrific!
God, they were great. Back
So
then.
horrific.
Like that's the thing about go to my grandfather's. We go to the movie store.
Yeah,
you know that was like pre-blockbuster. You go
right.
They didn't have like cool covers, just that clear plastic cover with the name written on it.
Yeah.
You go there, find the movie, usually some ninja movie, and go back and watch it. Hell yeah.
They're so good.
You know, to the point where you're blindfolding yourself, walking around the house barefoot all day, trying to sneak around.
Oh, yeah.
You're 8 years old, think you're a real ninja.
Oh, that's where it started for me, man. That's definitely where it started for me. Watching G.I. Joe, and then learning about Bruce Lee, and then I went to school with somebody that her father was a martial arts instructor, was a taekwondo instructor, and so it was all right there.
Yeah, I've been in martial arts since I was a kid.
What's that?
I've been in martial arts since I was a kid, you know.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Snake Eyes or Storm Shadow?
Yeah, I didn't really care about G.I. Joe that much.
No?
I played with it and stuff, but I never got into all that stuff. Like, I was more concerned about what was going on outside.
I got you.
I watched a few cartoons, had a few toys, but I never got deep into it. Like, people get around and start talking comic books, I'm like, all right, time to check out.
You went and studied the real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just running around the woods with friends and playing war, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like I said, 80s, different life. Way different life than even the 90s for a kid.
I remember no pads, no helmets.
Mm-hmm.
We had some, but we never used them.
I do a bit about this now, but my mom asked her last time she was here. I have this weird memory from when I was like 4 years old. We lived in Kansas. Mm-hmm. My dad was in the Army, so we moved everywhere. Mm-hmm. I was like, Was there a high incidence of kidnappings then? It's like, oh yeah, that was real. A lot of people went missing back then, isn't that? As a matter of fact, one day you disappeared for a few hours, so we couldn't find you. Turned out you were like at a friend's house and their mom didn't see you go through and you're playing in a room. No one called the cops.
What?
You know what I'm saying? Back then it was like, wait it out. If he's not home by dinner, then we'll make a call. Like, that's how it was pre early 2000s. Like, now your kid runs around and there's no parent around. They look like they're small. The cops can't call. This kid's lost. No, I'm just a couple blocks away from my house, dude. What the hell?
Yeah. I can remember disappearing for entire days, man. You take off on the bike with a couple of friends. And,
oh, yeah. Gone.
Yeah. And even, I guess it was a different world because even if a parent wanted to freak out about it, how much are you going to freak out about? You're not calling people's cell phones.
Yeah.
So you're going to call the payphones, or are you going to call and say, has anybody seen them?
They don't have all your friends' numbers, you know.
Yeah.
They just know Little Tom. Like, they know Tom's mom.
Well, and I don't think there was as much fear-mongering on a local level.
Well, you didn't. Once again, you didn't have that TV in your face. The news only shows you the bad.
Yeah, and so people
the bad is small. We're living the best time it's ever in history, ever. Mm-hmm. It gets better every day. Mm-hmm. But if all you watch is the news and you don't do anything else to stimulate your mind outside of that, yeah, the world's on fire.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's how you're going to live your life. The world's on fire. Staying, you're going to get kidnapped, you're going to get raped, you're going to get murdered. Like, if you look at actual numbers, it's so negligible. It's not even worth me worrying about going out there and getting kidnapped.
Right.
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Not to the point that you ruined the personality that I was to become because of what you just did. Because you can't keep your shit together. That's what that's OJ did that shit.
It's all OJ's fault.
OJ brought about the 24-hour news cycle that turned into what it is. God damn, I just put that together. OJ is responsible for today's children.
I can get behind that. I can get behind that. I'm sure that there was something before that, but the Bronco chase that changed history.
Mm-hmm. That's when the news channels learn, like, hey, they'll watch this shit all day long.
Well, and I don't know if that would be considered a significant event of our generation, but it's one of the moments that I can remember in high school. Like, I remember that day because there was just so much energy. You know, I was at Davidson in Mobile, and it was a topic that everybody talked about, and it was on in the classrooms, and when the verdict came out, there was this huge reaction. So it was a major event. I don't remember any other event being like that except maybe 9/11 and a tornado.
I barely remember it happened besides seeing shit about it now.
Yeah?
Where
were you
what year was
when
that?
the verdict came out?
What year was that?
That would have been 96.
96.
95.
So I got my driver's license in 95. 94, 95. I think 95. Mm-hmm. So at that point, it was news. I didn't give a shit. None of us did. It was, you know, what we doing this weekend? Yeah. Who's getting our alcohol?
Yeah.
You know, school, go home, fuck off, go to sleep. You woke up Friday like, oh, tonight is on. We didn't care about what was going on in the news. We didn't give two shits about OJ that. We didn't pay attention to riots or nothing. Like, we were just kids. Like, yeah. Our schools didn't go out of the South Louisiana. Yeah, that has anything to do with it, but they weren't tuned in like that. They didn't really care about what was going on. You know, to them, I guess it was like, some shit going on over in L.A., but those L.A. type people, you know, Hollywood and shit, whatever. Like, that's one thing I think is what was going on where we're from.
I don't remember why, but the riots in L.A. not so much. But for some reason, that memory sticks out. Like it was a big day. I remember there were a lot of people that reacted, and it stands out in my memory.
Yeah, I guess
fascinating.
I guess Cajun country. We just didn't like.
Yeah. Oh, memory is something that fascinates me, in that it's one of the things that we all have, and it makes up who we are, and it's 100% the thing that we fuck up all the time.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Some are better than others. Everyone thinks their shit's good,
but by and large,
yeah, chances are you got that memory wrong,
right? To some degree, and probably a large one.
That's what kills me. Like, I know my memory is good because I've taken X amount of tests in my life, I've done X amount of things, and I scored X number.
Mm-hmm.
So that mean says my memory is about 90-something% good.
Mm-hmm.
But all it takes is that 1, 5, whatever percent off to mess things up badly or to get a story completely wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, if even 5%, you know, if you get the 1% is the right 1%, then fuck it, you're in Bodley-go, man.
In memory, it always boils down to what benefits who the best too. God, how many times like my ex-wife would be like, God damn, how do you remember this shit? I'm fascinated with science and stuff, and I just learned about it. I'm like, you know this? Like, how do you remember all this? And then when it's something that she may or may not have told me, and I'm like, I don't remember you telling me that. She's like, oh, I told you. I'm like, you talk all the time about how good my memory is, but right now it's not that good. I don't know who we should be putting the onus on here. Of course, that's one battle you never win.
Right. That's when it's good to be a martial artist and know that the easiest fight to win is the one you're not involved in. But that ties into memory too. You know, one of the things that I learned from martial arts was in ancient ninjutsu, and I'm sure in other practices too, there were plenty of examples of memory training techniques. You know, like have a cigar box full of crap. You have so many seconds to look at it and remember what was there. Mm-hmm. And then I think back to how important memory was to the Greeks and the Romans and the oral traditions of history, which are way bigger than just Greece and Rome. And then ties right back into education and how people are running around reading studies that they don't understand what studies are, first off, and trying to pass off sound bites as knowledge. Yeah. And it's how crazy all that is.
It's easy to stop those people in their tracks, though. So easy.
Usually.
Because in my opinion, you cannot argue something if you don't know both sides of the argument.
I wish more people played by that rule.
Then you're argument from ignorance. Like if you have an issue with climate change, we can have this conversation if first you can tell me the difference between climate and weather.
I know, right?
If you're like, I don't believe in evolution because why are there still monkeys? Well, you just told me you don't understand evolution, so we can't have a conversation unless you fill in some hours of fucking knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, you're already starting from a deficit, and you're going to try to have an argument. Like, I know both sides of the argument. If you can sit and argue something, and you can argue both sides and still make people go, I don't know which one to go with. You know the subject.
Right, you have to.
You just can't argue something if you don't know what you're arguing.
Yeah.
And so many people do. They think they saw a little clip, and then they go, oh, this is what I think about it. Like I always say, people are entitled to their own opinion until it runs into fact. I don't care how many times you look at this table and go, this is a Ford Escort. Like, no, it's a table. No, my opinion is a Ford Escort. No, the fact is, a table, you don't get that opinion.
Right.
And that goes the same for science. There's nothing worse than you just kind of, well, I'm not a scientist, but you're not a scientist, but shut the fuck up now because you're stepping outside of your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And even if you are a scientist, if you're trying to step in someone else's wheelhouse in science, you don't belong there either.
Yeah. Unless you're there to ask questions.
Yeah, if you're there to ask a question, hash through it, cool. But if you're trying to say, no, you're completely wrong, but yet you don't have the first clue about what you're talking about, you don't.
Yeah, such a waste of time.
That's like if I went to Neil deGrasse Tyson and started arguing about astrophysics. Like, everyone's going to go, no, you're outside of your wheelhouse. You need to step the fuck back. Why don't they do that with other shit? Why don't when someone steps in and talks something about climate change, like, let me see your credentials. This isn't voting for president here or anyone can go and chime in. Like, there's credentials required right here and right now.
Yeah, I wonder if we can start plugging that in. But I also wonder how we bridge the gap. Like you were saying earlier, people carrying their phones around and having access to, an extension of the brain. But how do we incorporate that into real-time functionality and keep it in a way that can keep people from being stupid?
You have to change, first and foremost, the education system we have. Our education system is set up to make factory workers.
Yeah.
I never had a single class growing up on critical thinking.
Right? Never.
Which
or
is
focus.
important. Really important.
Mm-hmm.
Neil deGrasse Tyson told a story. I'm real big to him, but he was talking about if you're interviewing 2 people for a job, one guy comes in and says, "Hey, how tall is this building?" And it's architect job, and the guy's like, "Well, I did my research. I studied up on this. I know the building is X amount of feet. Blah blah blah." Mm-hmm. Spits it out. Cool, got it. Next guy comes in, asks him the same question. He's like, "I don't know. Give me a few minutes. I'll tell you." Goes outside, looks at where the sun's at, looks at the building, the shadow, does some quick measurements, comes in. It's about this. He's like, "That's the guy I'm going to hire. The guy who can go out and figure it out, not the guy who memorized it and then told it to you." Mm-hmm. That's what we need. That's our education system needs to be. Mm-hmm. Not, here's the questions that we're going to test. Go study this, and then we're going to test you, and then give you a grade and call you smart, gifted, stupid, or whatever, based off of this, when you never really taught them how to use their brain. Mm-hmm. We don't need to memorize shit like we used to. That's what that's for. Mm-hmm. We need to learn how to use this, so we know how to use this. Mm-hmm. If you can't use this properly, you can't use that properly, and then you end up where we're at with this huge split, where the split's not as big as you think. It's just so loud. Mm-hmm. I think a large amount of people sit right somewhere around in the middle, give or take. Mm-hmm. But the fringes are so loud, it makes you think it's bigger than it is.
Yeah, I think it's very true. I think you're right. The bell curve, and it is the best time in the world to be alive, like you said earlier. It's not all horrible. I think that memory can help with critical thinking, though.
Oh, definitely. You have to memorize some rules.
Yeah. One of the things that I like about memory training is that we talked about being an expert earlier, and you mentioned you wouldn't presume to go tell or question an astrophysicist without having at least the bulk of their experience shared, bulk of experience with people like that, and that comes down to one of the things that's lacking. I think so many people don't know enough about everything, and how everything is so connected and so interdependent that if you really want to know how anything works, you got to know how it all is connected to some extent. Yeah. And I hope that's one of the reasons that my worldview came to be so hard and fast, and it's how I got to the whole truth, love, peace thing. Is when I was building my worldview, I was confronted at the right time with the right question. Mm-hmm. One of my professors looked at me and said, "What do you believe?" I'm like, and I'm not talking about what do you believe. I'm talking like at the ripe old age of 26, think I got my shit together and know what's going on. Yeah. And we're having a real philosophical conversation where somebody's like, okay, well, rectify your belief in a soul and karmic and reincarnation and what you do or don't know about physics. And if you can't explain it from, it could happen from a physics standpoint, then you don't get to believe that. Like, hardcore, what do you really believe?
Yeah.
And, oh, man, not enough people do that, but I think if more people did, like you were saying, we'd get to a better place where we could really take advantage of this, and that's where that ties back in. Do you think there's some way that we could get to a point where these things become more valuable than harmful?
Yeah, definitely.
I hope so.
It's just we're gonna. I look at it this. I look at progress in society as this: the pendulum that swings.
Right.
And it's always going to do
way
hard
out
this way, and then come back and level off. And I think right now with a lot of stuff, like with technology being adapted the way it is, like, the social side of stuff, like, you've seen a lot of stuff from the far left right now going heads up with how society and everything is, and a lot of it's, you're like, God damn, that's knee jerk, that's a little bit much, but it's that pendulum's right here, and we got to wait. But that's time. No one wants to wait. They want results now because their life is finite.
Yeah.
So you want to see results. But our generation might not see the results of what's going to come of this. Mm-hmm. It could level off while we're still alive, or it could still be over here when we die, and that's slowly coming back.
Well, does it ever level out? is another question. Does the pendulum ever stop, or does it just? Are we in extreme right now, and maybe we'll not be there for
I don't see it stop. Progress has been going forward since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
I don't know what a stop looks like, because there's always going to be something that we're pushing.
Right.
Race is one of the big ones. It's always pushing. What happens if we do get to a point where we become so mixed all throughout the world? It might take hundreds of thousands of years, but everything is so mixed where we all either look the same or we're all so different it don't matter anyway, so we might as well be the same. What's going to be the next thing? We're humans. We're going to find a way to put our foot on someone or something. We always have. A lot of people say, oh, we're going to end up fucking ourselves into one ubiquitous race. Well, if we do that, one thing I do know is mixed race couples have beautiful kids. So I see a future where bigotry is making fun of ugly people. We always find a way. Like I said, I'm a cynic.
I think it goes to aliens after that. I think it has to go to aliens after that. If it's,
you can go to space, but you don't have to go to aliens.
Well, but if it's
Aliens
not going to be
never
other
happen.
races, it's going to be another species. How about that?
It never has to come about. You
don't think it will?
I think with the vast universe and given everything we know, yes, life has to exist out there, but it doesn't mean we ever have to find it or it ever has to find us. We can continue to jump through the cosmos and never find.
Yeah.
Because we could be missing a civilization.
No, I was talking about as coming and uniting all of the races. Before everyone is related, which everybody's already related. We just don't look that much alike sometimes.
Yeah.
But if we had, like Reagan said in his big address, to the UN,
if aliens came down, we'd group together to fight aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you and this dude want to fight at school. But then if y'all are together against your rival school, you're going to want to fight them. If y'all are together on spring break, your city's close to these people from these other cities you want to fight in, it just expands out.
Well, and extrapolate that out to Werner von Braun talking about how the aliens and the false flag, that an alien invasion would be the next big false flag, to get us into the War of the Worlds. That wouldn't actually be aliens, but von Braun said that's where they would go after terrorism.
After War of the Worlds, that's going to be a hard one to pull off. It'd be a very hard false flag to pull off.
But they got Tom DeLonge.
People that don't believe we went to the damn moon.
But they got Tom DeLonge on their side now.
I don't know who that is.
Tom DeLonge's a bass player or something from Blink 182.
Oh, that cat, yeah. I heard the Joe Rogan with him. Yeah. Dude. Yeah, his office rocker.
Yeah, man. That guy, if he's
I love those people, though. I love listening to him.
Well, and he's got to be
it's got to be fun to be in your head.
Yeah, he's got to be nutters, man. But I think that's where the disinformation is at, because did you see the video the government tossed out recently? And they said since 2006, somebody had this special investigation team where the CIA or the FBI was looking into UFOs, and they released this video recently. It was. Oh,
is that the one that he showed on Joe Rogan? And they're like,
no,
yeah, that looks like some kid made that.
No, it looked like the disclosure that came out was the thing that DeLonge had been set up to promote. So he went out and did his chirpy thing. The Huffington Post and all these other folks had for months been putting together this release, and then all simultaneously released the same report, the same article that just so happened to look exactly like what DeLonge, it looks so much like disinformation.
You think he's part of this group, or
I think they're using him? I think he's a patsy. I think the government has playing him for a patsy, just because anybody that goes on Rogan's podcast and starts spouting off about "you don't know what I know" bullshit, But we all know Rogan's not a genius, but he's not the kind of guy you walk into and go, "You're not connected, man."
I find it so hard. Even conspiracies that actually have happened, I find it so hard, especially if it's something large, because the whole large, was it large claims require large evidence type deal,
Yeah.
The government is people. I work for the government. I am the government.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not much different than you.
All right.
I know other people that are higher up. Mm-hmm. Normal people. They're not hatching any plans. So I'm like, who would these people in the government be that decided to get together and go, I can trust you, you and you and you. Let's hatch this plan. It doesn't seem that feasible.
How about this?
Because I got great friends that I wouldn't even be like, hey, let's go hatch this plan because I trust you with my life, let alone some people I only met a few years ago just because you're a general and you're next to this or whatever. Like, I don't know. I just don't find that very feasible.
How about this? How about the mercenary operations like Blackwater and all that stuff now? I think that Ike's warning and what we've seen with the growth of the black projects and money disappearing and all these military-industrial complex thriving the way that it has for so long, for 50 years and 60 years now. But that things like that have led to Halliburton and its representatives being in positions of influence. And when you are dealing in power and brokering on that level of the world stage, I think it comes ready-made to have a group of people whose prices have already been listed and paid in mercenaries and have them go and do whatever you want them to do. And they've got access to pretty much anything they would need or would want to pull off because they're basically a shadow military. They've got the funding. There are aspects of every branch of our military that operate within the shadow realms of the government. And so it's not even a stretch to say, oh, we could call up former SEAL Team 6 and see who's on the pay list and the no pay list through Blackwater or some of these other groups and say how horrible a thing do we need to do and who's real happy with keeping their mouths shut, because that's what they've been doing for a really long time. And that's just my version of how you would pull it off. Not to say that any of those people are doing any of that stuff, but to say that I think the world has gotten ugly enough from the standpoint of the few people on the extreme that want to make it look real ugly, that some good people have made some bad decisions.
I don't think
I don't think
a lot of those people in that mix. Well, I could be dead wrong. You would be completely right, but I don't think they go into it like, I see the world here, and I'm going to do everything I can to make the world here. I think they see their world a certain way, and they're doing everything to make their world that way. And by that, I mean they want as much money in their pockets as they can, so they set up these systems and entities to keep things going, to keep that fucking flow coming in of money.
Yeah.
And that's what creates the shit we end up with. I don't think they're like, I want to change this about the world. They're just like, I want as much money as possible. So we get this president and he pulls this guy in, and this guy gives a bid to this company that he's getting drawback from. He's not putting that company in because he wants that company in that place to at some point change the outcome of this area of the world to reflect for this area of the world or any kind of ideology. He just wants his people there so he gets a kickback from within. Right. I think it's all just a chase for fucking money and power.
Yeah.
That old saying, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
That's is basic. I don't think you need a whole lot of hatching to go on that. You get enough people that have money and power, and they want more of it, they're going to put themselves in positions, and that's what happens. That's why you got the race for the presidency. It's so fucking stupid.
Right? Popularity.
To be a judge. Do you get to run? Can you run to be a judge if you've never been a lawyer in your life? No. If you have no law?
No, but they can appoint you.
It's still a democracy. You still run to be a judge, but you have to have credentials. Why don't you need credentials to be a president? Like, anyone can be the president. You have to acquire these credentials in your life to run for it, but if you don't have them, you just can't do it.
Yeah. And there's so much that's taken for granted. There should be. Did you hear their and this may have been total bullshit, but I saw it on a pretty reputable source that someone is trying to pass the Stable Genius Act, quote, Stable Genius Act, because of the questions of mental health in the presidency. Now they're implementing a piece of legislation that says all presidential candidates have to go through this mental rigorous test, and it has to be made public.
What's stable genius mean? If you think Trump's a genius, you're not smart. Right. You're not paying attention.
Right? Who calls themselves a stable genius?
Some people think he's not. When you're born into that much money, and then you're given that much money, and you have failed so many times, like he has failed. He has went all those things that went bankrupt. He bankrupted a casino. Who pays for bankruptcies? The U.S. pays for bankruptcies. He's probably got more money written off by the taxpayers than all the poor people of one city, what they draw from Social Security. Like,
he's a huckster. It's like you said, the good in the world are never the problem. It's the people that come in afterwards that want to make a buck off it.
Yeah.
That turn shit sour just so quick.
We have a huge problem in this country of people conflating intelligence and money. Just because someone is filthy rich doesn't mean they're intelligent. It just means they happen to be in the right place at the right time and have the right shit in mind. Some of our smartest people that's ever lived were not rich.
Right.
Because for a really intelligent mind, like a scientist's mind, like that's enriching their life. That knowledge and the science, not the money. The money complicates the life.
Well, and the inequity. You know, when we talk about justice, and I heard somebody ask, what would you do to make the world better if you could pass one? You know, how are we doing time-wise?
It's 9.
9? So we're going to have to head downstairs momentarily. But this will be a good food for thought to leave it on. If you could pass one piece of legislation, like if you could address one concern from a political standpoint, you know, in Congress or in Parliament, depending on which side of the pond you're on, what would be the one thing you tackled? And my answer was in some way to try and tackle the decency standard. Like everyone should be afforded a common decency. If that's a shower every day or a meal or whatever that level we all agree on, that everybody deserves a level of decency. You don't deserve to have things handed to you, but you deserve to not be, you know, and somehow I hope that would resolve a lot of the problems of people not having access to opportunity. No one deserves opportunity, but everyone deserves the access to opportunity. Or no one deserves success, but everyone deserves opportunity. Maybe that's how I would put that. Yeah. So that would be my one thing, would be try and provide opportunity to as many people as possible so you don't end up with this dumb rich kids that don't deserve the success that their parents, you know, were afforded. That was my answer to that question. So if you could pass one piece of, or address one major concern, what would be your first one?
Education, 100% through and through.
Love that answer.
Because education will bring decency. Education will bring, you know how many people don't know the difference between me and any person of any ethnicity that has a different color than me? It's melanin.
Yeah.
It's how much sun hit our ancestors and for how long. That is the difference.
Fuck yeah, man.
Like simple stuff like that. Just education changes everything. You educate people properly, they will turn your country around. If you don't educate them properly, like we're doing now in this country, you get what we're getting. We're turning into the movie Idiocracy.
That's such a good reference.
But it's
true.
Education, like they got this huge push I always see on Facebook, and partially I do agree with it. It's like your kids don't have to go to college. You can teach them welding is a good profession, this and that. Yes, cool. But if everyone has a college education, that hurts no one. That makes everything better. If you're a welder with a college education, how does that hurt anything?
Yeah, we can do both.
If they got that education for free, like how does that hurt anything? That helps everything, because that welder likes to weld, use his hands, but now he has information up here to make proper choices when he uses that, or she uses that, or she goes to the voting booth.
Yeah,
you know how many people vote just because of a simple letter next to someone's name? They don't know shit about what they're voting for.
Yeah,
that's why I don't get into politics that much. So most of my life I didn't vote. I voted for Obama the second time. It's the only time I voted, because I know for sure I don't want magical underwear in there. Like, I don't want what he's done. That's who I'm going to vote for. Anything else, not even concerned with. Because why am I going to go vote for something when I don't know shit about it?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a D next to it. He's one of my guys. Like, no, just because you're a Democrat or Republican, don't make you one of mine.
Yeah.
One of mine is someone who uses their brain that doesn't call themselves that.
Yeah, party
that
line.
Says, I'm going to look at this, I'm going to break it down, and then I'm going to come with a conclusion. And just because you come up with the same conclusion, but if before I come up with mine, that's going to be the same, you attach it to that other little letter, now that's gone. They won't even consider that conclusion because the Democrat or the Republican thought about it. I'm like, that's a bad way to live life. That's a bad way to run a country. This two-party system and all that is just a horrible way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. That's an awesome fucking answer, though, man. Education. Well, before we disappear, we are hanging out at the Days Inn. It's Tuesday night, and we're going downstairs to do the open mic with Back Porch Comedy. Check them out at Back Porch Comedy open mic, and obviously you all know where to find this. Where can we find Mark LaBarge?
Downstairs in a couple minutes at Back Porch Comedy.
Do you have anywhere you want people to check out?
I got a Facebook, I got a Twitter. You Google Mark LaBarge, something with comedy, you'll probably find me.
Sweet.
There's not many LaBarges out there, but there are a few.
What's your Twitter handle?
CAJNATC.
CNJAATC.
Cajun with the U removed. ATC, Cajun Air Traffic Controller.
Cajun Air Traffic Controller.
I need to change it.
That's
that
awesome.
Was before I became a comedian, so I need to update it. But.
All right, so we'll start signing stuff off here. Thanks for joining us. Facebook Live.
Thank you, Compton, for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, man. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we will do this again.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And so, peace, truth, love, and peace, Facebook, Alvita Zane. We got an hour and 9 minutes so far on the YouTube, that we'll upload to YouTube, so that's freaking amazing. Wonderful when technology works. Thank y'all.